This is 6-Minute English from the LangConnect English Club. I'm me.
And I'm Phương. For most parents, their baby's first word is a special moment. This happens after an early stage of language development called babble, when babies start making simple sounds like "eh" or "meh."
Babies have to learn to use their mouth muscles to make specific sounds. They experiment with different sounds and mouth shapes. So what exactly is happening when babies start learning to speak? What do you think, Phương?
Well, I'm no expert, but I imagine they watch the adults around them and kind of copy and imitate what they do. So, what do you think?
I definitely think that's what my children did when they were learning to speak. Well, let's compare our ideas with those of an expert, Professor Julian Pine from Liverpool University, speaking here on BBC Radio 4. He explained that the first thing a child has to do is break down a speech stream into words. Then they need to link those words to objects in the environment, meaning they just learn what the words actually refer to.
In this program, we'll discover how babies learn to speak, and as usual, we'll learn some useful new vocabulary.
And another thing to do before listening is ask my question. Phương, we've mentioned the babbling noises that babies make when learning to speak, but at what age does this usually start? Is it A, around 6 months old, B, around 9 months old, or C, around 1 year old?
Okay, I think my best guess would be A, around 6 months old.
Okay, well, we'll find out a little bit later on in this program. Let's return to what Professor Pine said. He pointed out that the first thing babies do is recognize where individual words start and end. In English, words often begin with a stressed syllable, the sound that is emphasized by being spoken louder or longer. Learning this takes time.
In a discussion on BBC Radio 4's Word of Mouth, professional Pine and presenter Michael Rosen talked about how children sometimes struggle with this concept.
Professor Pine mentioned that this could be seen in the mistakes children make. He explained that little kids often call giraffe a raff because they leave off the unstressed syllable, and that is not typical in English.
Michael Rosen shared that his son used to call a machine a sphinx, hitting only the stressed syllable while skipping the ma sound.
Professor Pine agreed and added a classic example of this is when children said nana instead of banana.
Michael Rosen joked that he might even call them that himself. One error or mistake infants make is calling a giraffe a raff, because they cut off the first syllable chi, since it's not stressed.
The classic example of this is when children said nana instead of banana. A classic example of something means the best example of it, one containing all the features you expect such a thing to have. For example, ants are a classic example of animals working together.
The second skill babies develop as they learn to speak is correctly linking a word to the object it refers to. But it's actually much harder than it sounds. As Professor Pine explained on Word of Mouth, he noted that people take it for granted that the meaning of words is obvious, but from a child's perspective, it's actually very difficult to figure out what a word refers to. He pointed out that when an adult says the word, the child must determine whether it refers to the cup in front of them, the pen, or something else, since the speech signal can be very ambiguous.
As adults, we take it for granted that when a friend says apple, they mean that the round red thing on a table. To take it for granted means to assume something without question. But for a baby, the link between the word apple and the objects is not obvious. is ambiguous, meaning it's had more than one possible meaning.
Wow, who knew so much was going on inside baby sponge-like brains as they soak up the sounds they hear? Right, me. Isn't it time to review the answer to your question?
It's the indeed. The question was, at what age do babies start to make babbling noises?
And I said it was around 6 months.
And that is the correct answer.
Yay!
Babies start to do this when they're about 6 months old. Okay, let's recap the vocabulary that we have learned. Starting with babble, the meaningless noises babies make as they are learning to speak.
The stressed syllable in a word is the sound which is emphasized by being longer, louder, or higher.
An error is a mistake.
The classic example of something is the most typical example of it, containing its most important features.
If you take something for granted, you accept or assume it without question.
And finally, the adjective ambiguous means having more than one possible meaning. Once again, our 6 minutes are up, but if you're ready for more, follow us.
Bye for now.
Bye!